Incredible transformation revealed. Mafia boss exposes shocking truth behind Maid's hidden bruises. Alex Russo stood alone in his dimly lit workshop, surrounded by worn-out tools and memories that whispered of a past he fought desperately to leave behind. Once the feared mafia boss of Chicago, he traded violence for the mundane existence of a small-town handyman. But as he read the headline in the local paper, his heart sank. Mafia boss exposes shocking truth behind Maid's hidden bruises. The image of Rosa's battered arms filled his mind, a reminder of loyalty that had become a haunting burden. She had served him selflessly while he buried himself beneath a new identity, yet somehow, her silent suffering now threatened to expose him. The reactions on the streets were palpable. Neighbors who had briefly accepted him now stared with narrowed eyes, their suspicions resurfacing like ghosts he couldn't shake off. Guilt gnawed at him like a rabid dog. What had he done to earn trust in this crumbling neighborhood? Where had the honor of family loyalty that once ruled his life gone? Betrayal had always been a bitter wound, but this time it was intertwined with his own failures. He thought he had left that life, yet here it was, crashing into his world like a runaway freight train. Hovering over the bedraggled table, he clenched a wrench tightly. In his heart, he wanted to confront the monsters behind Rosa's pain, corporate villains whose greed siphoned life out of honest workers. But could he? Could the man he had become, the docile handyman, actually face them without slipping back into the raw, primal power he once wielded? It felt like a game of chicken. The rising tension in his chest constricted, and memories of the streets flooded back, blood feuds, coded calls for loyalty, and the echoes of violence that felt as recent as yesterday. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The room spun. In moments like this, his choices looped his mind in an agonizing dance. Did he sacrifice his own safety for Rosa's? Her bloodied arms were imprinted on his conscience, the image stirring a rage that eclipsed any rational thought. He recalled the unyielding power of family that had once shaped him. Those commitments now felt like shackles anchoring him to a darkened past. Her well-being clashed violently against his desire to remain invisible, the relentless pull of his old life threatening to drag him under. In the silence, he felt shadows lurking, shaped by the powerful men who sought profit over humanity. The air thickened as fear flooded his senses, loosening the grip of his resolve. He picked up his phone, fingers trembling, contemplating calling Rosa to reassure her, but what could he possibly say that would protect her from the forces he knew were closing in? His breath quickened, muscles coiling as the shadows morphed into looming threats. Then, the door to the workshop creaked open. Alex's heart dropped. He hadn't heard any footsteps, but he felt the presence behind him, the figure from his past, the one he feared would shatter the fragile existence he had rebuilt. They stood there, a smirk plastered across their face, eyes glinting with the promise of chaos. There would be no easy escapes now. Only the tormenting question of whether Alex could become the protector he craved to be, or whether the specter of violence would once again claim him as its own. The air grew tense, pulsating with unspoken challenges as the figure from his past stepped further into the dim light of the workshop. Alex's heart raced not with anticipation but with terror. Each step closer felt like a nail being driven into the coffin of his new identity. He recognized the man, Victor, a haunting reminder of the old days when power resided in the barrel of a gun and loyalty was enforced through fear. Alex, Victor drawled, the name dripping with disdain mixed with dark amusement. Look at you. Working with your hands now, like a simpleton. How quaint. Laughter followed, sharp and biting. Holding his ground, Alex forced himself to breathe. What do you want, Victor? He demanded, attempting to wrap his voice in the authority he once commanded. But it felt hollow, a mockery of the man he had tried to become. Don't play coy, Victor countered, swaggering closer, invading Alex's space. I'm here for what's mine. You think you can just walk away? People don't do that. You owe us, buddy. And I'm not just talking about money. Infuriated memory surged through Alex's loyalty twisted into chains, every deal marked by blood. Yet, beneath the anger simmered an unsteady fear. What did Victor know? What had the outside world begun unearthing about his past? Rosa, Victor continued, his voice dripping with predatory intent. She is caught up in this mess because of you, and you know that if you don't fix it, the consequences won't just touch you. They'll reach her, too. The mention of Rosa sent a jolt through him. Her face flashed in front of his mind, bruised and scared. All those years he had spent trying to protect his world from the past, now Victor was threatening to tear it down. Anger surged within him, and for a moment, the jukebox of his past tunes played its familiar melody, one of power and dominance, but this time, his hand was not reached for a weapon, it sought resolve instead. Let her go, Alex barked with newfound determination, channeling every ounce of energy he had cultivated. The hands that once grasped power through violence now gripped the belief that he could rewrite his narrative. You'll deal with me, not her. Victor stepped back, feigning surprise, as a smirk returned. Ah, the hero arises. But tell me, what makes you think you can keep your shadows at bay? You're as much a liability as she is. A curious paradox, don't you think? The battle within rose again. Self-doubt wrestled with his intentions. Was he truly capable of facing Victor, confronting those who had always threatened the corners of his existence? As if sensing the turmoil inside him, Victor's smirk widened. Time's running out, Alex. You only have so long before I take matters into my own hands. He stepped back towards the door, the looming threat leaving a trail of malevolence in its wake. You can fight, or you can flee. Just know that whichever path you choose, shadows always find their way home. Once alone, the workshop felt smaller, suffocating under the weight of pressure. Alex leaned against the table, struggling to gather his thoughts. If one thing was clear, it was that this was not just about Rosa anymore. It was about a man reclaiming himself, confronting the darkness that had lingered too long in the corner of his mind. The decisions lay ahead of him, and there were no easy paths. Should he run, as his instincts whispered, or finish this confrontation for good and protect those who deserved better? As he took a deep breath, simmering with conflicting emotions, a distant sound echoed through the workshop, the sound of a hammer striking metal outside. The rhythmic clang resonated, igniting a flicker of clarity. Was it time to redefine what it meant to protect the people he cared for? To step into the world of business, honor, and personal redemption? In that moment of resolve, one question nagged him: would he break from his past, or would he embrace the monster inside that had kept him alive? As the sun dipped below the horizon, flickering shadows played against the wall, reminders of the duality within him, casting long and twisted paths. With every decision echoing back toward his past, he had one thing left to confront, the truth about himself, and the tide was beginning to turn. Would he finally become the hero he needed to be, or would he spiral back into the depths of what he had fought hard to escape? As he picked up a hammer, the air thickened with uncertainty. It was only the beginning of the battle. The moment to decide what kind of man he truly wanted to be had arrived. Would his next move shatter the darkness, or would it consolidate his return to the very demons he'd worked to banish? Alone in the dim light of the workshop, Alex's heart thrummed with the clash of adrenaline and dread. Victor's chilling threat echoed in his mind, mingling with memories he had fought to suppress. The clang of the hammer outside persisted, a relentless reminder of the work ahead and the choices looming before him. His fingers gripped the cold handle of the hammer, a tool now instead of a weapon, symbolizing his transition from the violent past to the purposeful present. Could he really sustain this new identity amidst the toxicity that Victor represented? Questions spiraled in his mind, and beneath the bravado of his earlier defiance, fear rippled, destabilizing his resolve. He stepped back from the workbench, seeking the comfort of routine but finding only chaos. The once familiar tools that had aided him in crafting wit and mindset now blurred into fears of the past. Could this hammer build a future, or would it be a tool to dig deeper into old wounds? In the hush of the workshop, he closed his eyes and took a slow, grounding breath. Clarity began to emerge as thoughts transformed from frantic to focused. Alex envisioned his journey ahead not just for himself but for Rosa, the woman caught between his past and present. She deserved safety, and he was determined to provide that. It forced him to confront the growing dissonance within. This was not merely about resisting Victor but building something stronger. And the craftsmanship he had learned could be repurposed, shaping not just wood but his own reality. With each stroke of the hammer, he could lay down the foundation of a new identity, one juxtaposed against the chaos of his history. As he worked, sweat formed on his brow, not from the toil itself but from a rising determination. Alex was merging his skill set, integrating the lessons of his past with a new framework of principles. The hammer struck with intention, each blow against metal morphed into a declaration of resolve. He would not flee from this, nor would he simply confront Victor on his terms. He needed a strategy. He took a step back, wiping his brow, and began to sketch ideas on a notepad he kept nearby. This could be a blueprint not just for the workshop but also for their lives. What if he opened a dialogue with Victor, not as a threat but as a negotiation? Perhaps he could leverage their past connection to create an intricate chess game, outmaneuvering Victor while securing Rosa's safety. Yet, shadows of doubt flickered at the edges of his resolve. Was he naive to think he could outsmart someone like Victor? Their shared history loomed, and Alex could not ignore the harsh reality of Victor's influence and cunning. But the alternative was surrender, the very concept he had staked his newfound identity against. He clenched his jaw, a familiar fire rising within. If he wanted to rewrite his story, he needed control. Crafting a plan that balanced risk and strategy would require him to place trust in his instincts and, for the first time in a long while, in his ability to create a future for himself. Then, with sudden clarity, he realized he had allies in this journey. Rosa had seen the best in him when he couldn't see it in himself. But keeping her safe meant he had to be proactive. Victor's threats were real, but so was his own drive for redemption. That lingering specter of self-doubt returned, whispering against his resolve. Could he walk the line between light and shadow, confront his past without succumbing to it? The moment felt pivotal, and the hammer sparked with metaphorical significance. It wasn't just about self-defense but about crafting a new reality where he controlled the narrative. As the sun dipped lower, shadows stretched long and dark across his workbench, mirroring his tumultuous thoughts. This was only the beginning. The silent battle would soon erupt into a confrontation with Victor that would demand his all. And in that brewing storm, a surge of determination surged. Would he find the courage to navigate the treacherous waters ahead, or would he allow fear to guide his decisions? The thought clung to him as he stood facing the door of his workshop, the threshold between creating and confronting, the cusp of his transformation beginning within the shadows. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. Would he emerge a hero, or would he find himself consumed by the very darkness he sought to escape? The answer loomed just out of reach, a haunting challenge yet to be faced. The hum of the workshop felt foreign and yet comforting, almost an echo of his determination as Alex prepared to delve into dialogue with Victor. The urgency pressed upon him like the weight of a heavy timbre, complex, necessary, and strangely exhilarating. He couldn't afford to let fear consume him. The safety of Rosa was intertwined with every decision he made, and the thought ignited a fire he'd thought extinguished. He returned to his sketches, lines woven into shapes, a base of wood representing strength and resilience, each stroke a metaphor for the structure of his future. This wasn't just about negotiating with Victor, it was about the framework of respect and authority he intended to build. Could he construct a fortress not just from wood, but from a philosophy grounded in honesty? As he drew, his mind wandered to the moments in his past that had shaped their formidable relationship. He remembered the laughter they once shared, the camaraderie over projects that had borne fruit in the form of crafted pieces, and the warmth of brotherhood. Those memories, however nostalgic, were tainted with Victor's ruthlessness. It was a duality that didn't escape Alex as he set the pencil down. Was he merely naive in thinking he could tap into that shared history for anything other than conflict? Inspiration struck, and he considered an approach that was less confrontational, a showcase of labor and skill. What if he invited Victor to witness the transformation happening in both the workshop and within himself? A display of progress could be an enticing bait, a way to ease the tension by letting Victor appreciate his growth. A gamble, yes, but perhaps a worthy one. Yet as he plotted this seemingly clever plan, the specter of doubt gripped him again, tighter this time. Would Victor see his evolution or perceive it as weakness? Would that absent glimmer of camaraderie turn into predatory interest? Alex shook his head. He needed to trust himself, and that trust had to be anchored in preparation. He thought again of Rosa, her laughter, her kindness, the supportive glances that told him she believed in him even if he faltered. Each memory renewed his resolve, fortifying his heart against Victor's looming threat. He couldn't let her down. That was the indisputable truth that pushed him forward. Suddenly, a thought shook him out of his reverie. What if Victor did come? What if he saw something in Alex that reminded him of their past, the potential for partnership instead of enmity? The potential for manipulation danced on the fringes of his mind. Walking into a meeting with his former ally required a careful strategy. Time raced against him. He needed to practice his speech, assert confidence, and showcase his resolve. It could unfold with grace or chaotic confrontation, and he was set on the former. Briefly, he rehearsed in the silence of the workshop, voices beneath his breath creating an echo of determination. Victor, we both know we've changed. I'm no longer the person you can intimidate. Let's build something out of the wreckage of our past, he murmured, gradually growing into the conviction of his words. The hammer, no longer just a tool for construction, had become an instrument for crafting his identity, even his communication. He needed to wield it with precision, every stroke a reminder of his capability to carve his own fate. In that moment of clarity, a deeper revelation dawned on him. If he could articulate his intentions clearly, maintain focus on his transformation, and exhibit growth, perhaps Victor would respond to reason instead of hostility. The threshold was closing, but it held a new definition for Alex, one he was ready to step through with a plan forged in resolve. The workshop held its breath as the sun cast the last light through the windows, enveloping him in a golden hue. Alex took a final pause, feeling the emotional weight of what lay ahead. This confrontation with Victor wouldn't just be a meeting, it would echo throughout his life, setting the stage for everything he aimed to accomplish. As he prepared to meet the ghost of his past, determination radiated within him. But the stakes were higher, and shadows remained. Would he be ready to provide more than just a facade of courage? Or would he slip back into the haunting echoes of that dark corridor where Victor dwelled? The thought gripped him, and anticipation settled heavily in his chest. Tomorrow would bring not just confrontation, but revelation, and perhaps an unexpected realization about the person Alex was becoming. What he didn't anticipate was how Victor's reaction might unravel more than just their fragile connection. It could lay bare the very truths Alex had kept buried deep. The morning sun pierced through the workshop's dust-laden windows, casting sharp beams of light that illuminated his sketches. Now more than mere drawings, they had become symbols of his determination. Each stroke of his pencil had been a whisper of change, but now, standing before them, they seemed to vibrate with potential. Alex inhaled deeply, the scent of sawdust mingling with the crispness of a new day, an invigorating reminder that the air was charged with possibility. With added clarity, he reviewed his plan. Victor wasn't just an adversary, he was an unpredictable variable in this equation of evolution. Alex had resolved not to anchor himself to the old dynamics that had dictated their relationship for far too long. He mulled over his approach carefully, recalibrating his memories of their past collaborations into a lens of opportunity rather than trepidation. The facade he intended to present hinged upon authenticity, his growth, rather than a desperate attempt to garner Victor's approval. He had to rely on something deeper than mere craftsmanship. It was about a new mindset, a disposition that remained resolute, no matter how Victor might choose to react. An unexpected surge of confidence propelled him upwards, pushing his thoughts toward Rosa. She had glimpsed the best version of him and always believed in his potential. He sensed a lightness in his heart, the joy of distant laughter now intertwining with his anticipation. He vowed to carry that energy into his meeting with Victor, like a beacon guiding him through the darker corners of the past. As the hours dwindled, a flicker of unease came creeping back, ripping through his newfound buoyancy. What if Victor dismissed him outright? In a world where strength could easily be interpreted as aggression, he questioned whether he would maintain his footing in the balancing act of persuasion and integrity. Would he showcase the essence of his transformation if faced with Victor's undeniable ferocity? Gathering his previous resolve, he donned a purposeful expression in the mirror, each detail an anchor grounding him to this evolving version of himself. He was no longer a puppet to Victor's strings nor a mere image of the man he once was. Instead, he was a craftsman, sculpting his own narrative that could rival their shared history. The workshop dimmed as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows on the floor, evoking a series of complicated feelings within him. Was he ready to confront the looming specter? His heart raced at the thought not of cowering before Victor, but of standing solidly in his truth. This was not just about power play, it was about validation and reclaiming his rightful voice. In his heart of hearts, he realized that the true adversary was not Victor, it was the remnants of his former self that lingered in the corners of his mind. He needed to dismantle the belief that fear defined who he was. The hammer found its place once again in his hand, a tangible symbol of his intent not simply to build but to defend his growth. The clock marched forward, and soon it would be time. He visualized their meeting as a confrontation tinged with the complexity of past wounds but ripe with potential for collaboration. If he could overcome the gravity of their shared history, there lay a chance for redemption, one that could recalibrate their destinies. What he hadn't prepared for was the looming realization that this wasn't only an encounter regarding business, it was a crucible moment that would test his character. Just as he finished envisioning their interaction, a dark thought surfaced. What if Victor recognized the shift inside him too quickly? What if he grasped at Alex's vulnerabilities, ready to exploit them? As the shadows lengthened, so did his resolve. Tomorrow would bring answers he had long sought, thrusting both men into a new arena where trust and perhaps betrayal would clash. He stood firm, embracing the uncertainty that lay in wait, and as he let the final rays of sunlight wash over him, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the greatest revelations would stem from his own unexpected resilience, catalyzing a journey beyond the workshop where his true potential awaited. The door was creaking open to a confrontation that could redefine everything they had once built. Would he be ready to cross that threshold? The morning came quickly, the soft light of dawn creeping into the workshop and painting everything in golden hues. Alex stood before the sketches, but today, they felt different, less like symbols of potential and more like echoes of a reality he was about to confront. The air was thick with anticipation, as if every particle was aware of the moment he was about to embrace. He arrived earlier than usual, determined to settle his thoughts and temper the hurricane of emotions swirling within. Yet, as he examined each line and curve of his designs, doubt came knocking. What if Victor dismissed his vision? What if the ember of their past ignited into a wildfire? He paced the workshop, feeling the weight of history pressing against his chest. Every step was a reminder of that familiar voice in his head, a siren that murmured of past failures and the comfort of the known. Alex's hands trembled slightly as he grabbed the nearest tool, an old chisel, and began to smooth rough edges from a piece of reclaimed wood. Each scrape against the grain was cathartic, a way to channel the frigid fingers of anxiety coursing through him. In this act of creation, he found clarity. He needed to dismantle every coarse splinter of insecurity, piece by piece. Rosa's face floated into his mind unbidden. Her bright eyes had a way of igniting sparkles of advocacy within him, envisioning futures they both could chase. The memory of her laughter ignited a flicker of passion, and he leaned into it. If he truly believed in his transformation, he had to lean into the discomfort of authenticity. It was time to embrace the full spectrum of who he had become, not just the polished exterior. The workshop door creaked open, the sound slicing through his reverie. It was Victor, striding in like a storm, unleashed and unapologetic. For a moment, the world narrowed to that singular moment, and all anxiety fused into a cold steel resolve. Alex gathered his breath, the intensity of this impending confrontation crystallizing his focus. "Morning, Alex," Victor's voice rumbled like thunder, a mix of jest and challenge. "You look like you've been preparing for battle. Did you forget what we're here for?" Calmness threatened to slip through Alex's grasp, but he held his ground, reasserting his identity. "It's not a battle unless you want it to be, Victor. I'm here to discuss the project, but the old dynamics end here." The audacity of those words surprised even him. A flicker of amusement flickered across Victor's face, but the laughter did not reach his eyes. Oh? And what makes you think that's your call? Alex steadied himself, rooted by the depth of his own conviction. Each word felt like a chisel shaping stone, carving a new narrative free from Victor's condescension. Because I'm not seeking your approval anymore. I built something worth standing behind, and I intend to see it realized. There's room for collaboration, but not exploitation. For a moment, silence settled between them, heavy as a stone. Victor's gaze sharpened, as though he was taking a hard inventory of Alex's resolve. The tension expanded, becoming a living thing. For all the background noise swirling in Alex's mind, doubt, fear, the shadows of their shared past, he felt a singular clarity rise within. Interesting, Victor finally said, the edges of his smile sharpening. You think you can stand on your own? Let me remind you of what you're up against. The shadows of old fears coiled around Alex, but they no longer felt heavy, they were fuel. He had crafted a new vision, one that stood not in defiance but in equal measure, worthy of respect. Let us see who truly defines this project moving forward, then. As they stared each other down, the balance of power shifted in the room, creating ripples that reverberated beyond mere competitive rivalry. In this confrontation, Alex discovered something vital: his voice mattered, his identity mattered, and he could wield them both like tools to shape his reality. Just as a moment of uncertainty clung to the air, Victor leaned back, an inscrutable expression crossing his features. All right, then. Let us put that theory to the test. The test was looming, and the stakes had never been higher. Alex was on the brink of forging a partnership or facing a betrayal that could unravel everything he had fought for. There was no turning back now, just a precipice of choices ahead that demanded clarity and courage. Would he emerge from the crucible stronger or yield to the merciless forge of Victor's ambitions? The atmosphere shifted as Victor's words hung in the air, a challenge that both terrified and invigorated Alex. He sensed the gravity of the moment, a pivotal point in his life when decision and action demanded his utmost attention. The workshop, once a sanctuary for his creativity, had transformed into a battleground of intellect and willpower. The scent of sawdust and fresh wood mixed strangely with the metallic tang of conflict. As their conversation lingered, Alex analyzed the content of Victor's expression, a nonverbal invitation to play a game of wills. Would he concede to the desperate nostalgia and desire to prove himself subordinate? Or would he stubbornly cling to this newfound sense of authority? Each moment stretched on, demanding a decision, while doubt stirred at the edges of his thoughts, grasping to pull him back into the chasms of insecurity. With a steadying breath, he felt the embers of resilience ignite anew within him. This was not simply a project, it was a testament to his evolution and a reflection of the bruised artist still very much alive inside him. You're right, I have to prove it, Alex replied, his voice unwavering, every nerve sharp and alert. But my strength doesn't come from undermining others. It's the realization of my own value. Victor raised an eyebrow, intrigued by this unexpected confidence. Alex took the chance to delve deeper, the realization of his own worth suddenly crystal clear. His passion, his craft, the intricate designs upon his sketches, they all demanded to be fully recognized. What I envision is not just an outcome, it's the forging of something authentic. If you want to lead this forward, then respect the vision behind it and the person who created it. He watched as the subtle shift in Victor's facial expression registered something akin to respect flickered behind the challenge. The game had indeed changed, forcing both men to reassess their stances as they stood on opposite sides of an ideological line. In the days following their confrontation, the workshop buzzed with a revitalized energy, a reflection of both the tension and partnership slowly budding between them. It was an unexpected collaboration, one that dangled precariously between the need for mutual respect and the underlying threats that had defined their past. Alex found himself immersed in long nights and early mornings, sketching, refining, and building prototypes that once felt distant from his grasp. Under the scrutiny of Victor's tough, sometimes demanding demeanor, he learned to navigate the complexities of trust and power. The early doubts began to dissipate as he honed his skills, reminding himself of the vision that kept him moving forward. Each interaction with Victor evolved into a duel of wits and insights, moments where Alex learned to step into leadership, voicing his thoughts with purpose. He now reveled in those challenging discussions, facing Victor head-on and molding the project into something that felt truly right. But as fresh ideas flourished, shadows of discord still loomed. Their past was not easily forgotten, and tension simmered beneath the surface. Alex felt the delicate balance shift with every triumph, realizing that power dynamics were as unpredictable as the creativity they channeled into their work. One evening, their collaboration almost reached a breakthrough when Victor presented a suggestion that cut right into the heart of Alex's vision. The proposal felt like a betrayal buried deep in layers of ambition, a thread that could unravel everything he built. "Let us adjust the layout to maximize market appeal," Victor said with an easy confidence. Alex's insides twisted, the weight of the moment crashing through him like waves breaking over a rocky shore. Adjusting meant sacrificing the heart of what he had poured into the project. The ambitious chorus echoing in his mind clashed with the instinct to protect his truth, and for the first time, the slow bloom of fear pulsed in his veins. Facing Victor now meant more than just declaring his worth, he had to defend his vision against the very person who had held sway over him for too long. As he opened his mouth to respond, he felt the tension swell, a mixture of fear, hope, and conviction spiraling into something formative. This was not merely a project anymore, it was the crucible of his identity and a definitive test of his resolve. Would he yield to the allure of compromised safety, or would he stand firm, ready to protect all he had fought to define? The moment of truth approached, ready to unveil the real stakes and the consequences of his choices. The silence in the workshop grew oppressive as the weight of Victor's proposal sank in. Alex could feel the vulnerability of his predicament strip him bare, the echoes of past failures clawing at his resolve. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, summoning inner strength. This was a defining moment. He would either bow to pragmatism or soar by remaining true to himself. Maximize market appeal? He repeated, purposefully adopting a tone that suggested he was merely gathering his thoughts rather than responding in immediate defense. "What exactly do you mean by that?" His voice was tempered with curiosity, but inside him, a storm raged. Victor's lips curled into a confident smile, a predator sensing weakness. "Think about the potential. If our goal is to reach a wider audience, we need to ensure that we're in touch with market trends. Audiences want predictability, not a personal narrative." Alex clenched his jaw, heart racing. He envisioned his designs, vivid and brimming with his essence. The gallery of images in his mind was soon clouded with panic, fear that his vision could be diminished to fit the contours of a commercial box. But that personal narrative is what makes it unique. Without it, we are no different from any other name circulating in the industry. Victor's expression hardened. "This isn't about whether you can paint a heartfelt picture. It's a business. Think about the bottom line. You wouldn't want to risk everything, right?" The notion of sacrificing authenticity made bile rise in his throat. For too long, Alex had been told to temper his creativity for the sake of approval. But now, he felt the resolve coalesce, transformative energy streaming through him like a current. "I don't just want approval, Victor. I want recognition for what I built. If we lose the emotional core, the essence that brought me here, then what's left?" Victor's eyes narrowed. "You'll have to decide soon. I'm not asking for much, just an adjustment. A little give. Is that really worth risking the whole project?" The ultimatum reverberated in the workshop, his heartbeat echoing in a silent rhythm of defiance. It was not merely a project at stake, it was his journey, his growth captured in every measurement and curve of wood, every nuance of design that told a story only he had the power to convey. Alex's breath grew steadier with each pulse of determination. To retreat now would only reinforce every moment he had ever doubted his voice, his vision. A voice inside him whispered fiercely, urging him to fight back, to reclaim his right to pursue his truth, regardless of the daunting landscape stretched out in front of him. "I can't compromise on this. I want tea." The words flowed from him, blunt and unyielding. "If we rework everything to fit someone else's expectations, we've lost sight of why we're here. I refuse to surrender my vision for a fleeting market trend. It's about creating something lasting. Something that matters." For the first time, Victor seemed to genuinely consider Alex's words, the facade of authority cracking, revealing a glimmer of vulnerability. But just as quickly, he masked it. Passion doesn't pay the bills, Alex. Get real. As the confrontation lingered, Alex felt the ground beneath him shift, a dangerous precipice of professional identity and artistic integrity now laid bare. Could he persuade Victor to see this passion was an investment, not a liability? Would he stand firm and risk the entire collaboration? The room hummed with tension, unbroken silence shrouding their standoff. The realization loomed: would this exchange cultivate a firmer stance for him in the future or shackle him back into the dependency of approval? Without warning, Alex sensed a shift in Victor's posture, an unexplored pathway emerging amidst their conflict. How far was Victor willing to go for success, and was Alex ready to plunge deeper into this treacherous dialogue to unearth the truth? The air crackled, now thick with stakes that both men needed to navigate, ready for the next electrifying exchange. "Let us hash it out then, shall we?" Victor proposed, lifting the tension from the air like a painter unrolling a fresh canvas. His challenge sharpened, and Alex's heart raced at the bittersweet lure of possibility. The fight for his vision had only just begun. Would he rise to the occasion? As Alex prepared to delve in deeper, he couldn't shake the feeling that something more than their collaboration was at play, and as their confrontation unfolded, he would unearth invaluable truths about himself and Victor. The stakes had never been higher. The air felt charged, a taut line drawn between ambition and conformity as Victor leaned in, ready to pursue the debate. Alex could sense the challenge buried within Victor's gleaming eyes, a calculated move to provoke a response. He fought against the urge to fold under the pressure, willing himself to navigate this confrontation without compromising his core beliefs. Victor began with an impassioned pitch, weaving through various market statistics, trends, and success stories that seemed meticulously selected to sway Alex's judgment. Consider how many artists fade away because they refuse to adapt to the realities of their market. You can't deny the numbers, the followers, the bottom line matters. Yet, as Victor's words wrapped around him like chains, Alex felt a growing determination to separate himself from the noise. He'd once been that artist, desperately seeking approval, conforming to the market's demand. But now, an undeniable shift within him was beckoning for something more profound. Numbers matter, sure. But they are not the whole story. The words slipped from him before he had even processed the thought. What defines success for you, Victor? Is it the profit? Or is it the impact of the art itself? Suddenly uncertain, Victor faltered mid-sentence. The slight pause felt heavier, as though Alex had plucked a string that resonated deep within his collaborator. Could Victor, too, be struggling with the compromise between authenticity and commercial success? "I'm not suggesting we throw away strategy," Alex continued, his voice gaining a steadiness he hadn't expected. "We need to find a way to connect with our audience while still being true to what we create. Isn't that the point? To inspire? To provoke thought?" As Alex spoke, he felt a tide building, a growing empowerment flooding his resolve. Was he beginning to rediscover his authentic vision? Each word he voiced seemed to liberate fragments of himself long hidden behind the veil of doubt. Victor's facade began to crack further, and for a fleeting moment, Alex saw a flicker of worry flicker across his face. It revealed vulnerability, something he had never expected. Was it the birth of mutual understanding, or merely a ripple of defensiveness? "Art that resonates is not just about numbers," Alex pressed on. "It's knowing that you've shared a piece of yourself with the world. Those resonances might not always translate into immediate revenue, but they cultivate a loyalty that will sustain a career." With each word, Victor's demeanor teetered, and Alex sensed a connection forming, not of agreement, but of recognition. They were both trapped in a labyrinth of conflicting motives, yet through the haze of their conflict, a sense of kinship emerged. Victor leaned back reluctantly, hand rubbing his chin in contemplation. The silence stretched thin, revealing the internal battle within him. "Maybe you're right," he conceded reluctantly. "But proving that to others will be another fight altogether." A new wave of determination surged through Alex, invigorating him. Then let us fight it together, Victor. But let us do it with honesty, undiluted art. After a heartbeat, Victor nodded, though his eyes still held a guarded quality. All right, go ahead and draft your vision. We'll see how far we can push this. As they shifted into a collaborative mode, Alex savored this newfound empowerment, blurring the line between artist and businessman. Yet an unsettling thought lingered: how far was he willing to venture into this uncharted territory? With a tentative stride, Alex stepped forward, drafting the artistic manifesto in his mind. If this was to be a joint endeavor, he would cultivate space for his truths while respecting the business lens Victor demanded. As he began to sketch out the new roadmap, a nagging question phantom touched the edges of his ambition. Could Victor truly embrace this vision, or would market pressures ultimately claim the pieces that made it uniquely Alex? The uncertainty loomed like a shadow, a reminder that the real battle to protect his vision was only just beginning. What revelations would shape their creative journey ahead? In the following weeks, Alex secured a new purpose, no longer bound by the shackles of his identity as a former Mafia boss but embracing the burgeoning artist and businessman he had become. Each day spent in the workshop brimmed with determination to solidify the transformation that was now as integral to him as the wood he shaped. Alex recognized that his journey had always been about crafting something authentic, not just for himself but also for Rosa, who remained a silent witness to his evolution. Conversations with Victor navigated the complexities of creative integrity and commercial viability. They were no longer merely antagonistic, but a partnership slowly molded through mutual respect. Victor, once a direct threat to his aspirations, began to see Alex's resolve not as weakness but as a formidable force. The initial tensions that sparked their conflicts evolved into dynamic discussions peppered with strategic insights. Alex pushed boundaries, advocating for a direction that kept his personal narrative at the forefront, and surprisingly, Victor began to listen. One bright day in the workshop, a pivotal breakthrough took place. The sketches Alex had poured his heart into began transforming into tangible designs. As he chiseled out a piece of rough timber, each blow resonated deeper than ever. The rhythmic strikes became a soundtrack to his resilience. Finally, he stepped back and surveyed the workstation cluttered with projects and materials. They were artifacts of not just his dreams but a testament to the person he fought hard to become. Hey, Alex, Victor's voice cut through the quiet concentration as he entered the workshop with a newfound respect. The board loved your proposal. They're ready for a presentation. The weight of those words settled in, validation wrapped itself around him like an embrace. It wasn't simply about approval, it was about recognition of his vision. Really? Alex felt a swell of pride, combined with disbelief. It was as if he had finally constructed a bridge between his past and present. He was no longer just the man desperate to stay hidden, he was an emerging craftsman ready to share his art with the world. Yes, and they want you to lead the presentation, Victor continued, an earnest tone threading through his bravado. You've articulated the authentic narrative they seek. Confronting Victor's intentions, Alex glimpsed the genuine evolution of their relationship. This was an opportunity that reflected how far both men had come, not just in business, but in their understanding of each other. I appreciate that, Victor. I really do, Alex replied, feeling a wave of gratitude. As he prepared for the presentation, Alex immersed himself in rehearsing not just the stats but the heart of what the project represented. The blending of artistry and commerce was a delicate balance he had learned to navigate, and he adorned his speech with authentic passion. This was bigger than just one project, it was a declaration of the new life he had carved from the wreckage of his past. The day of the presentation arrived. The boardroom pulsed with an electric tension, and as he stepped in, Alex felt the transformation solidify within him. He was presenting not just to secure a project, but to cement his voice in a world where he had often felt silence suffocating. With poise, he presented the designs, each slide echoing his journey. As he spoke about the amalgamation of his experiences, the struggles of being both an artist and a businessman, Rosa's face flickered in his mind. He could almost hear her laughter mingled with the sound of success. Every word was woven with intention, every appeal to emotion strategically merged with market insights. As he finished, the board erupted in applause, and he was met with looks of respect and admiration. For the first time, Alex felt he had fully claimed his journey, from the shadows of crime to the light of his artistry. It wasn't merely a professional acknowledgement but a personal achievement that resonated at the very core of who he had become. As they wrapped up, one of the board members approached him. "You've come a long way, Alex. It's inspiring to see someone redefine themselves so completely." The recognition cut through him like a beam of sunlight. Here was validation that echoed beyond mere career success. It was affirmation of his dignity, his worth. Walking out of the office, the weight of the past felt lighter, unshackled by each small triumph he crafted along the way. He no longer saw himself as a remnant of hostility and crime but as a herald of creativity, ready to reclaim narratives and dialogues that truly reflected who he was. In that moment, standing beneath the clear sky, he finally felt a sense of closure. Alex had not just achieved acceptance in the community, he had woven threads of respect and partnership amid the fabric of his reality. He was a man transformed, and the journey had just begun. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will unfold. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this astounding resolution. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion.